gonna get. All right, good evening, everyone. I am so glad that each and every one of you are here with us today. This webinar series is called Voices of Change, and I am one of your co-hosts over the rest of the year. My name is Ashley Watson. I am the Volunteer Engagement Manager here at the National Service Office for Nurse Family Partnership and Child First. And I'm really grateful to be in this position as I am an NFP alumni. I graduated Nurse Family Partnership from Texas in 2014. My one and only baby is 12 years old in seventh grade, going to one of the top fine arts schools in Texas. So I'm really grateful to be here. And the Raising Strong platform is definitely a place that I see families like myself and others to have a platform to share our stories. And this is exactly what Voices of Change is all about. Voices of Change gives us an opportunity to, as Raising Strong families and alumni, to reflect and think about the obstacles and the challenges and even the barriers that we have pushed through and overcome to be where we are today. And even though there is probably plenty of scenarios and things that we're still going through, it's just an opportunity and a safe place for us to voice that and come together as a community to provide ongoing support with one another. And so I'm really happy to start this webinar series. It's going to be bi-monthly. And so our next one will be in March, and we are going to have a special guest, Vonda Stevens, who will be coming and sharing her story as well. But I'm really happy to have our very first special guest, Mara Brough, and I will let her introduce herself here in a minute. You may be wondering, is she an alumni? Is she not? She's an honorary alumni because she is a mom of three boys, okay? So anyone who got three boys on their head, they are a Raising Strong family who is journeying this thing together. So I'm really happy to have her on and for us to really talk about public policy priorities and things. That's the title of our presentation today, which I'm sure people are like eager to be on today, but we are going to keep this conversation light and fun and just talk about how families can get involved and even nurses and clinicians can get involved in this advocacy work. So Mara, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, so let's go ahead and get started and jump in. So share your name and just any hobbies that you enjoy doing that you would love for the audience to know a little bit more about you.
Sure. So as you said, my name is Mara Brough, and I have three children. Samuel, who is 18 months, who is desperately trying to get into my office as we speak. Charlie, who is almost 6, and Jackson, who is 8. So it does mean I don't have a ton of time for hobbies. I do try to be active in our PTA with my kids' Cub Scout troop. And when I do get some free time right now, I really like to read. That's all I really have the capacity to do.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And it's okay if your baby tries to come in. He's welcome, so don't try to steer him away. But okay, well, let's hop into the nitty gritty. You work at the National Service Office for Nurse Family Partnership and Child First. She's actually my boss, y'all, so be nice. But tell us a little bit about your role and what you love most about your job.
Sure. So my official title is Senior Manager of National Advocacy. So I have a number of different responsibilities within my role. The biggest one is really kind of developing and overseeing the national advocacy strategies. This means really determining what tactics we're going to use to advance our public policy priorities. And some of these tactics I'll probably go into more detail later, but this could be different advocacy events. This could mean direct lobbying. This could mean facilitating some constituent messaging to their elected officials. We decide if we need social media push, if we need additional PR around our public policy priorities. I also manage all of the advocacy events. It's kind of talked about. There's a number of different events we do. We do our state lobby days, or we call them State Education and Advocacy Days. The acronym is SEEDS. We love a good acronym here at the NSO. And so these are really when we will have our nurse home visitors, our clinicians, our NFP and our Child First alumni go to state capitals and meet with their legislators and just kind of educate them on the importance of the program. We do a similar but much smaller event on Capitol Hill. Obviously, there's a lot of logistics involved getting people to Washington, D.C. So it is a really small group that we bring. And then we also do a lot of events with our legislators in district. We will do what we call site visits, where we will invite a legislator to go to a nurse family partnership or a child first site, meet the staff and some of the families there that are receiving services. And no legislator has ever gone to a site visit and not walked away a huge champion. We know they are really impactful. And sometimes we will even have legislators do ride along visits with our home visitors. And they really kind of get to shadow them and see what this work is like. So that's a big chunk of my job. I also work to ensure, consistent and nonpartisan messaging around our public policy priorities, which I know we're going to talk more about later.
Yeah.
I work to support Ashley in the community and family engagement work, but that is really her role that she does so wonderfully.
Mhm.
And what I love most about my job is just that I'm able to see the change that advocacy is able to drive. We can have a bill or a priority or a funding issue that we don't think is going to go anywhere. We're worried that our funding is going to get cut, and we do a number of different advocacy initiatives, and all of a sudden it works out. And to be able to see that power of the advocate's voice is just so amazing to me, and I'm so honored that I'm able to do that.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I love how you talked about different opportunities that occur at the local level with like the districts, with the districts and legislators like going along with nurse home visitors or clinicians, even at the state level where families and nurses and clinicians can even go to the Capitol, and even just federal, where we have our annual like policy and advocacy summit. I mean, that just shows that there's a variety of opportunities for people to get involved. And that's one thing I wanted this platform to emphasize, is that you don't have to be a top dog, right? To go to your legislator. Just like you mentioned, like sending emails, and having that message that we can send even at the local level, even families attending at the local level. Like, you can see yourself in every piece of advocacy, right? So thinking about what advocacy looks like, how do you think it really makes an impact?
Sure. Remember, our legislators they are employed by their constituents. They were elected by you. Your tax
Mhm.
dollars pay their salary. It is their job and it is their staff's job to listen to you. You might not always like the way they vote, but there's always an opportunity to educate them on the issues. And that's what a lot of advocacy is.
Mhm.
Before switching to advocacy, I actually did start my career working for a member of Congress. And I was
Mhm.
able to see like firsthand the power of advocacy. And I remember there were times where we would be getting calls like, the congressman is going to vote on the floor. He doesn't know what to do. Are people supporting this issue or opposing it? We would go through our system and see like these are the calls that we're getting. And I know it's really easy in this political climate to kind of feel like your voice doesn't matter, but it really does. Even just something as simple as calling or emailing your legislator absolutely makes a difference. They have systems that they track this, they know what their constituents care about, and it is their job and it's their duty to vote to represent that. Like I said, it doesn't always work in your favor, but I've absolutely seen it so many times where it really does.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned. I remember, being a graduate of Nurse Family Partnership, we actually had a graduation event, where we invited the community, and people to come out. And I've attended NFP graduations where we've invited legislators, and they love those moments. They, like you said, it's really a heart moment, and they see like the impact, and firsthand account of how families have grown, or just become more confident in their abilities to be a parent. And you mentioned the word champion earlier. Do you want to break down like what that word means, of how legislators can champion this work?
Sure. So I'll use my home state of Pennsylvania, and I actually support government affairs work in Pennsylvania in addition to doing our advocacy work. So in Pennsylvania, we have 203 state senators or 203 state representatives and 50 state senators. So that is 253 state legislators just for one state. So that means there is absolutely no way anyone has time to get to know all of them and talk to all of them and have them lead out on their issues. So really what you want to do when you're cultivating your advocacy efforts is find a handful of legislators that are going to be that voice for you among their colleagues. That when it's time to create budgets or pass legislation that are going to say, remember nurse family partnership, remember child first. So that is something we are always kind of working to build those champions. And a lot of times our champions will become champions through things like graduations or site visits. They might be very new and we're just kind of working on educating them on the program, and they learn about these programs and they are so impressed with the work that we do, and they are so impressed hearing from our program graduates that they want to make this their issue, that they are going champion. So they'll speak on the House floor, the Senate floor about these issues, the whole press conferences. They will really put their political power behind these issues. So we have them in every state. We have them at the federal level. We have them in, congressional offices and governor's offices. It's one of our really most important advocacy tactics.
I love that. Thank you for sharing, because I think the word champions, we're participants, of this program, and we can champion this work all day. And I don't ever want us to underestimate the power that we have in voicing, the change that we can be. So thank you for breaking that down. So now let's get into the nitty gritty about what are the issues that the National Service Office is focusing on, and what can we expect for the year ahead?
Sure. So we are brand new into a new administration, a new Congress, new state legislators. So right now, our biggest priority is to ensure funding for our programs. We
Okay.
are really committed to serving more families and more children, really focusing on the highest needs community where we feel like we can make the biggest impact.
Mhm.
And so there's a number of different funding streams that we support. At the federal level, our biggest funding stream is called MCV. So it's the Maternal, Infant, and Early Childhood Home Visiting Program. So this legislation was originally passed as part of the Affordable Care Act, and it has been reauthorized 4 times since, maybe 3, forget.
Yeah.
But the latest reauthorization was passed in 2022, and the authorization lasts till 2027. So I know that seems like a really long time away, but we are actually already kind of building the groundwork for what the next reauthorization will look like.
Yeah.
Because our goal is when 2027 happens and that funding expires, we already have our champions, we have our legislation, there will be no lapse in
Yeah.
funding. And part of the reauthorization for MCV required state governments to kind of match some of the federal funding. So it's a federal state initiative. So
Mhm.
we're focusing a lot of our efforts at the state level, trying to help states understand how important this funding is and asking them and advocating for them to support additional funding to meet this match. So the more money a state will put in, the more money the federal government will give them, the more families we can serve with this funding.
Mhm.
And to be clear, MCV does not just support Nurse Family Partnership and Child First. It supports around a dozen or so other home visiting models, because we know that different models support different family needs.
Yeah.
On the funding piece as well, we're also always looking to support Medicaid, and really be innovative with Medicaid dollars. A lot of the families that we serve do rely on Medicaid, and we know that it's a really important tool, to our clients and to our sites.
Mhm.
So right now we're really doing everything we can to protect Medicaid, as we think, as we kind of figure out what the next federal budget can look like. But we're also really advocating for some flexibility in Medicaid coverage. Some states are able to draw down dollars from Medicaid for home visiting, and some are not. We think it would be wonderful if all could. So
Mhm.
that is something we are definitely exploring
Okay.
with Medicaid as well. And then there's also some other, federal pieces that fund our programs that we support as well. One is the Families First Prevention Services Act, or FFPSA. We're
Mhm.
kind of working to see if there can be some flexibility with that, if there's more funding available. And then also, we're always looking at any legislation at the state or federal level that would really address maternal health. That
Mhm.
was a big initiative of the Biden administration. So we're looking to see what's going to happen with this new administration, as well as mental health. We know that early childhood mental health is really important, and we've yet to see really a comprehensive package at the federal level to support that. So that's something we're always talking to offices as well. So as this new Congress kind of develops, as states get deeper into session, those priorities might look a little bit different, but they'll
Mhm.
probably all be kind of under that same umbrella of maternal mental health or maternal health, childhood mental health, and program
Mhm.
funding.
Okay, that makes sense. I think that's really helpful because I feel like we can see ourselves in any of that, right? And it's an opportunity for families, parents, nurses, clinicians to advocate for their experiences and even just the impact and the support, that even for me, like families like me who've received NFP, to go in there and be like, hey, these things are important. So I really love to hear that the National Service Office is always advocating and championing this work that hits close to ground. And it's early in the year. And so these topics are still broad. They're broad enough to where we can really develop a message to make it impactful for, any any situation. So, and speaking of like the year ahead, and it's still early, we can't deny that it's a polarized political landscape, that's happening and that's going on. You can't live under a rock and feel like nothing's happening, right? So, how does the National Service Office remain bipartisan? And what is bipartisan?
Sure. Sorry, I had to mute myself for a minute. All my kids were like right by my door.
Okay.
So being bipartisan, in my opinion, really means we work with anyone that wants to support our issues.
Mhm.
We remain bipartisan because we have to remain bipartisan. To gain the necessary support for our programs, we have to work with all legislators, regardless of political affiliation, because we could not be successful without this support. If we aligned ourselves only with one side of the aisle, you're essentially losing 50% minimum of the support.
Yeah.
Our issues have no party affiliation. They really cross both sides of the aisles. We are supporting families, we are supporting children and moms and babies, and all legislators and all people do, I believe, want to support these
Yeah.
issues. Sometimes the wording that they use around them is not great, but they really do care about these issues just in different ways. Sometimes it's tricky though, because due to the current political climate, some issues are just bipartisan in nature. And so it does mean we really have to walk that fine line, because our support or opposition of a policy really could have wide-reaching you know what I'm trying to say.
Implications.
Implications. Thank you.
I
I'll be
got
here
you. I
crying
got
baby. I'm like, what's happening?
you.
Um,
Your mother
so
instinct, like, what's going on,
So it's really important that we are thoughtful and logical and consistent about the issues we choose
mother?
to take positions on.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean if there is an issue that only one party is supporting or only one party is opposing, that we wouldn't take a stance, right? We
Yeah.
really just try to be really thoughtful and consistent about it. But when it comes to securing funding for programs, which are how our programs are able to operate to support families, we have to work with everyone.
Right.
And if you look at the map of different legislators and the breakup of them, it's across the state, across the country. There
Mhm.
are red and blue and purple states, and we are well respected and well received in pretty much all of them. And
Mhm.
that is because we have worked really hard to remain bipartisan and stay focused on our issues and our subject matter expertise.
Yeah, that's really good. I love that. And that's one thing I also appreciate about the National Service Office is just the expertise of you, like being a government affairs manager, how you all are able to go into those offices and speak both languages, whether it's Republican or Democratic or independent, it's about the issues that matter. And so that kind of leads me into my next question of families. Where can families play a role in this advocacy work?
Yeah, families are absolutely the most impactful advocates for legislators and decision makers to hear from a family, to hear directly their lived experiences with receiving these services, what their life was like before, during, and after receiving these services really makes a difference. We try to speak to the heart and the mind of legislators, but
Yeah.
our families really get to the heart, and that is what drives votes, and that is what drives change. So there are
Mhm.
so many different ways families can be engaged, and we try to be as flexible as possible because we understand, right? We are all parents. We are juggling a number of different things. We have
Right.
jobs, we have school, we have kid issues. So you can advocate at the highest level where you're on DC, or you can advocate just sending, text messages or responding to an alert, and they all make a huge difference. The more a legislator is hearing about an issue, the more likely they are to act. And if we are in that phase where we need champions or we need votes on a specific committee, because a lot of times certain bills will be assigned to certain committees and legislators and legislatures. So
Mhm.
then the committees really serve as that subject matter experts on certain issues. So you really want to make sure that committees are going to understand your issue, like an appropriations committee where they're deciding what the budget's going to look like. You want
Yeah.
to make sure they're hearing from people that have graduated from Nurse Family Partnership or gone through the Child First program. So when they're looking at this budget and they're thinking, do we need to make cuts? Do we need to do this? They're remembering that story they heard about the mom who said her lives were changed because of this program. So that is absolutely where families play a really, really vital role in our advocacy work.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's one thing I appreciate about the National Service Office is that we understand the importance of parent voice and parent leadership. And I think we've just come a really long way in supporting families and where they're at, to get across, whether that's supporting them like with the Uber, to get to a meeting or, just making sure they have snacks, if they have to bring their baby along, all of that plays a role. And I appreciate that's one thing I really appreciate about the National Service Office. And when we're going to state capitol or the federal office, that you all take care of families, we take care of families, and so I hope that that would never be an ongoing like challenge or barrier for families. They're like, well, I can't, I don't know. We got you. Like, we got you. What do you need? What does it take? Because your legislators need to hear from you. So I love that. So before we wrap up, and we would love to have a Q&A. If anyone wants to have any questions for myself or Mara, you're welcome to come off mute, come on video, or you can just put it in the chat. We would love to hang around and ask some questions. But Mara, in your role as the senior manager of national advocacy, like what is like a dream vision for you when it comes to parent advocacy? Like if you had an unlimited budget, no barriers, like what would parent advocacy look like to you?
Oh my gosh, with an unlimited budget, I would have hundreds of parents at every state capitol and on Capitol Hill every year because
Yeah.
we would have a unlimited staff working to coordinate those events.
Oh, I forgot about the staff.
Yeah, that takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
That would absolutely be my dream. It's not a reality. I don't think any organization in the country can really say that is the reality. So
Yeah.
kind of right now where we're at with parent advocacy, we've really come a long way. Like you were saying, I think we have a great system to support families to get there so they can really, share their lived experiences and help, drive that change. We are able to support, like you said, if they need rides, absolutely babies, toddlers, children, they are great advocates themselves.
Right.
We always welcome them in meetings if you're better at, multitasking than I am, because that's a tough one.
Yeah.
That would absolutely be my dream. We saw during COVID and 2020, 21, a lot of flexibility with like virtual testifying and things like that, which made it really easy for parent advocates to engage. And a lot of states have pulled back on that. I would love, if that was always an option. So you could, testify from the comfort of your own home. A lot of these state capitals are often in the middle of nowhere and are not super easy to get to. And a lot of times they're only, voting from like 9 to 3, which is not easy when you need childcare or you have a full-time job or you're in school. So I would love if state and federal government did more to be accessible for
Mhm,
advocates. But
mhm.
until they do that, we are doing everything we can, to support our advocates getting there.
Yeah,
Um, so that is really kind of my dream. I just kind of want to continue to build on the great work that Ashley and I have been able to do together
yeah.
over the last few years because we know, how important this work is.
It is important, and I love it. I realized like a week ago that I have been doing this like parent advocacy, parent engagement work for almost 10 years, here at the National Service Office, and I've seen how far we've come, and even just creating the Parent Ambassador Program, which is a 2-year leadership and advocacy training program, is an opportunity for graduates to utilize a platform and share their story and be external, spokespersons on behalf of the issues and policies that are important to not just our families, but families all across the country. So we've definitely come a long way, and I'm glad that parent engagement, community engagement is something that's important to the National Service Office. So um, thank you so much, Mara, for sharing. I would love for anyone, just seeing if anyone has any questions. I'm gonna allow you all to come off mute, or if you want to um, if you have any questions in the chat, we would love to answer anything.
And while we're waiting for everyone to come off mute, I'm going to put the sign up for our action
Mhm.
alerts in the chat if you're not already receiving them. So this is
Mhm.
the first and easiest way to become engaged in advocacy. So if you fill out all of this information, you'll be signed into our to receive our action alerts. So
Mhm.
this is if something's happening at the federal level or your state, you will receive an email with a pre-populated email that will go to your direct legislator. So we were talking about how important, them hearing from their constituents are. So this is the
Mhm.
first and easiest way. But also once you're on this list, we will have your information if there's opportunities for in-person advocacy and different events in your state. So I really recommend if you want to be engaged in our efforts, you can start really small with an email and kind of work yourself up. But if you really want to get super engaged, feel free to reach out to me further. There are always opportunities as well. But I'm going to drop that link in the chat. Sorry, I should have had it geared up and ready to go.
No, you're fine. I love thinking about like what could parent advocacy look like without any like limitations or barriers. And I just envision like tons and tons of families, just going to, I really love like the idea of like going to Washington, D.C., because there's just so much power in families being able to just travel with their families, even that being a lived experience. So I would love to just send tons and tons of families to Washington, D.C. To share their story. And so I would,
Maybe next McPhee reauthorization. We got 2 years.
yeah,
Maybe we can make it happen.
yes, we're gonna need everything we got. So does anyone have any questions? And it's okay if you don't, but just wanted to see if anyone has any thoughts or questions. Okay, we have one. Even though if we are not a parent ambassador, but we still sharing stories at these events. Yes, yes, and yes. I'll speak to Raising Strong, and then Mary, you can speak to state or local advocacy opportunities. So yes, Janaya. So this is what Raising Strong is all about: staying connected to Raising Strong. If you are a former participant in Nurse Family Partnership or Child First, we love to get parents involved at the capacity that you're able to. We have different opportunities as being, yes, a parent ambassador. Where it's a commitment, And it's for 2 years, or even just one-off events where it may be an opportunity to share your story with the donor, who may be interested in our programs. Or if you wanted to participate in a fundraiser and share your story via that way, or making phone calls, or even just like supporting, we have our own Facebook page that you may know about, like just advocating or just sharing your story there. And we also have a monthly newsletter where if you're wanting to just share your story, you're more than welcome to connect with me. And I would love to highlight you in our Raising Strong, which we have about 4,000 members in Raising Strong across the country. And our emails, our monthly newsletters go out to about a little over 3,000 people. So that's a great platform and way to share your story, which is like very light touch for someone who may not have a lot of capacity. So definitely, if you are interested in sharing your story within Raising Strong, you are more than welcome to do that. Or even as a parent ambassador, even if you're not a parent ambassador, there's opportunities at the local level for community advisory boards. And community advisory boards are an opportunity for the community to come together and support programs like Nurse Family Partnership and Child First, and a parent voice is always needed in that space. And that's a great leadership opportunity for you to network and meet different people in the community, or even just for you to share your story and your insights as a family or a recipient of the Nurse Family Partnership or Child First program. So those are tons of ways I just kind of spit off of how you can share your story. Mara, what about, I know we've talked a little bit about the advocacy realm, but do you want to list anything else there?
Sure. Yeah, there are always opportunities to kind of share your story in the advocacy space. There are, meetings with state legislators that are not exclusive to parent ambassadors. So our parent ambassadors is a really small group. Our need for parent advocates is very wide reaching. So once you kind of sign up through our Raising Strong portal or our action alerts and we have your information, that's when we'll definitely kind of contact you as these needs come up. So we talked about our lobby days, our state education advocacy days. So we do those really when there's a big need for an advocacy push in a specific state. So I can't guarantee it's going to happen in your state every year. It could be, an occasional thing. We didn't do one in Pennsylvania last year, but it looks like we're going to need to do one this year probably. So once we have that information, we welcome and we really love as many parent advocates as we have as possible. But there's also events that legislators do in district year round where they will kind of reach out to us and say, we're doing an event on maternal health. We're looking to have a parent speak. Do you have anyone? And then we'll kind of, Ashley and I will look at, who we have that lives in that district, who's indicated their support and engage as well. Sometimes we have press opportunities as well. So, sharing your story for our website, for our social media. We have a huge following of legislators on social media, which is wonderful. So we do like to share those stories. So really once we have your information and if you need to share your story, we will always try to find as many opportunities as we can. And we are here to support you throughout that process. It's not just like, go meet with a congressman, you're on your own. We kind of walk through the process, help you craft your story, help you tailor your messages for specific audiences. And then really often we are sitting next to you in those meetings. So if there's questions or concerns that you don't feel comfortable speaking to, we, and when I say we, I mean the NSO, someone will be there, kind of your partner throughout this process. So we really do. We know how important this work is, and we know how limited everyone's time is. So we want to make sure if you are sharing your story that we are doing everything we can to support you in that process.
Yes, 100%. Thank you so much. Janiyah, let us know if that answered your question. I see we have another one in the chat. What do we tell our current undocumented clients who are terrified of what's going on? Thank you, Nadine, for this question. Definitely.
Yeah, thank you. It's a good question, and it's a really hard space right now because everything is changing minute by minute, second by second. It seems sometimes that something happens in the morning and it's changed by the afternoon. So we can sidebar, Nadine, about how we can better support you during that process. I wish I had a simple, like, this is what it's going to be, but I don't think we know right now. I think there's a lot going on, and as orders are being issued, we're seeing legal challenges as well. So there is no clear-cut answer right now. Unfortunately, my heart goes out to them, and I'm so sorry that people are feeling this way. So why don't you drop your email in the chat, Nadine, and we can kind of sidebar about this and make sure we can support you with that.
Yes, thank you so much. And even with Raising Strong, even though it is a program particularly, for program participants or graduates, it's also a support for parents. And we don't collect any information, any identifying information, all for parents to join Raising Strong and to get that support. All we need is their name, phone number, or email. And they're able to join our Facebook group where we have a lot of conversations about just regular life. Like I mentioned, we have the monthly newsletter as well. So it's a space for program for parent support. So you can always consider Raising Strong if there are parents who would love that extra parent support there. Definitely keep Raising Strong in. Oh, awesome. If there aren't any other questions, I'll give it like the 7-second rule. That's what we do here at the National Service Office. Thank you, Nadine. Well, awesome. Well, I am so happy that we had our first Voices of Change webinar. I appreciate each and every one of you coming out. Like I said, this is going to be a bi-monthly series. We have a parent ambassador, Vonda, who will be on in March, sharing her journey as a parent and all the ways that she is sharing her voice and championing the work that she's doing at the local level, even state and federal by then, because we are going to Washington, D.C. at the beginning of March, just to advocate for these programs. So I'm really excited about our next webinar series. And if you are a Raising Strong member and you're wanting to share your story, please reach out to me. Mary, will you put my email in the chat? You are more than welcome to email me and let me know if you're interested, as well as if you're a nurse or a clinician. If you know a parent or a graduate who would love to share their story, or if they're continuing to make an impact in their community, you're more than welcome to share my contact information with the family members, because we would love to utilize this platform for good. So thank you so much, Mara, for your time. And I appreciate all the work that you do to amplify the voices of families. I know that you are a huge advocate, and I hope this webinar shows just everyone else how much you are an advocate for this work and champion of families. So one last question. Do you want the clients join the webinars? Yes, clients are more than welcome to join the webinar. I would love to have current NFP or Child First clients joining so they can see, and hear from other families who've been in the program. I'm a mom who has been in the same shoes as clients, and this is what this platform is all about, inviting other families who have journeyed through. So please invite your clients. It's an opportunity for them to see families that look just like them, and encouragement, and let them know what's on the other side of graduating in FP and Child First. It's a Raising Strong. So yes, love for them to join.
Thank you all. I hope you're all join up for our action alerts, and we'll probably be in touch soon.
Yes, thank you.